Could Kid Goku defeat every JJK sorcerer? Goku's always placed against other anime characters, but it's usually a bit lopsided. Let's level the playing field by pitting him against all of Jujutsu Kaisen. And by using Kid Goku. Can he survive this onslaught? Well, it depends. It's somewhat close actually. I made a video about Gojo running the Dragon Ball Gauntlet, seeing how far he can make it into the series before someone has a way to kill him. So let's do the inverse here, pitting Goku against all of JJK. First, we need to choose Goku and scale him. Early Goku can actually beat some of the weakest sorcerers, but he caps out once we get to certain grade 1s and special grades. So in that case, Kid Goku versus every sorcerer is unfair. But when making this video I had a more refined Goku in mind. Goku from the 22nd World Tournament. This feels fitting because it's when Goku's actually a better warrior. Plus he's around Yuji's age here, so it's kinda perfect. The fight still is mostly unfair. In the other direction though. Here's the scenario because we need a reason for this. An unknown warrior with a lot of power was discovered recently, formerly an evil being meant to destroy the planet. Some want to fight him because he's supposedly strong, while others see him as a threat. They don't realize that he's actually pure of heart. They're worried about Kakarot, but they're going to be fighting Goku. As of recording, JJK is only on chapter 257 right now. So there will be spoilers up until that point, but if I miss anything after the fact, that's why. It's based on what happens until then. I've done this with other characters against JJK as well, so if you're interested in those, I'll link it above. And in those videos, to make it work, I give the challenger some level of cursed energy. That way they could be affected by domains, see curses, and we assume they could just exorcise anyone that's a curse. So here, Goku has cursed energy. He won't be using it at all, and he won't even be aware that he has it, but this allows him to be affected by domains and interact with curses. And for the other side, we'll assume Goku's ki is treated as cursed energy for them. And we could assume his ki will exercise curses, because otherwise some of the matches just end right away because of the different power systems. First, how strong is Goku at this point? Let's start with attack power and durability. Goku's Moonbuster. I remember a time where online Roshi's Moonbusting was regarded as an outlier. Personally, I never viewed it as such, and it seems relatively consistent with scaling later on. Thankfully, it seems to be more accepted nowadays as an actual feat of strength, and we really should be using this here. Anyone at the level of max power Roshi during the 21st World Tournament, they'll scale to Moonbuster. Simply put, Goku's a Moonbuster too here. And in Dragon Ball, attack power usually correlates with durability, so he also has moon level durability. Goku by this point definitely is above Roshi. Roshi himself said he might have lost against Tien in this tournament. And given how skilled Roshi is as a fighter, this should be a clear indicator that at the very least, Tien is equal to him. He can make up for a power gap with skill. But the fact that he even entertains the idea that Tien might win, despite his lack of experience compared to Roshi, that should at least mean his strength is comparable, if not greater than Roshi. And later on, Goku obviously fights equally with Tien. And in the Red Ribbon arc, Roshi even says Goku might have surpassed him by that point, way before this arc happens. Plus, looking at Daizenshu 7, which is external but also a reliable source, Roshi's power level during this arc is at 139. This should be his maximum power at this point. Goku's power is listed at 180. Same for Tien. All in all, pretty safe to say he surpassed Roshi by this point, at least in terms of raw power. Now onto speed. This Moonbusting feat also gives Goku sub-relativistic speeds at this point. If his full power is stronger than Roshi, who had a beam travel to the moon in a few seconds, this applies to Goku's full power as well. He dodged Tien's Kikoho, which is superior to a Kamehameha. Roshi himself says this. And based on Goku's performance during the entire 22nd World Tournament, yeah, it's safe to say he's sub-relativistic at minimum, when it comes to combat speed and reaction speed at least. So right off the bat, we could skip a lot of characters in JJK. Just on raw stats alone, Goku overpowers a lot of people here. So in this video, we'll only be covering characters that might have a hard counter to Goku. Because for example, Nobara, who could directly attack the soul, Goku completely outspeeds and overpowers her. So even people like her with good abilities, they can't match up against Goku. We'll actually start with someone really strong, Ryomen. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, drop a like on it. It shows me you want to see more like this. One thing that came to mind for me here is the fact that Goku hasn't really shown any cold resistance, at least at this level. We see him encounter extreme cold in Jingle Village, where he freezes, but people live there fine, that's just really cold weather. Ryomen is actually freezing people. Vegeta actually does have a good ice resistance feat, where absolute zero temperatures freeze him to the bone, although this is in the Tournament of Power, way later on. It's also worth noting that after the 22nd World Tournament, Goku goes into the Room of Spirit and Time off screen, which has extreme weather in it, and he couldn't even handle that for a month. Although we do never see this and we don't know how far into the room he went, but still he likely did encounter the extreme temperature differences, and this is after the King Piccolo arc, plus after some training with Kami, aka after multiple boosts in power. So it's kinda up in the air if Goku can handle that at this point, but it doesn't seem like he can. There's nothing really supporting that. He could probably break through the ice at least and tank attacks from Ryomen at least, unless he's hit by a massive attack right off the bat from them. Thing is, he greatly outspeeds Ryomen and he could one-shot here. One way Ryomen could win here is by using a domain expansion, but at this point in the story we still haven't seen them use one. So hypothetically, if Ryomen has a domain expansion to use here, which they probably might, depending on the effects of that domain, it might work, because that's a surefire hit where they could freeze Goku. Although if there is a domain, Goku could probably still break out of it. But because we haven't seen that yet, I'll say Goku wins here pretty easily. All he has to do is avoid being frozen, which is pretty easy for someone that fast. Next, Yuta Okotsu. Yuta doesn't really have any hard counters against Goku, unless he can copy one of the kill shot attacks that we'll discuss later on. As he is normally, and with the powers that we've seen him copy so far, there's nothing he could really do. Goku should be able to stop him and Rika, despite his immense power. The only reason I mention him here is because of what I'll cover later on with people like Yorzu. It has to be a purely hypothetical scenario where he can copy a strong attack. But as he is regularly, no, he doesn't win. Next is Mahito. His idle transfiguration would ignore durability and actually kill Goku. Goku has no resistances or counters to soul manipulation at this point, and he can't attack the soul. Mahito stated in chapter 23 that you have to be aware of your soul to avoid this, or, in Nanami's case, subconsciously protect it with cursed energy. But for the latter, he mentioned repeat attacks will break through the subconscious defense. Goku seemingly has no such resistance here. But I think there are a few ways he could win. For one, Mahito's domain is obviously a sure hit, but if he figures out that he can break out of it, he could just do that. They're obviously tougher on the inside, but Goku should have enough strength to break through. Plus, within that same chapter I just mentioned, Nanami says he could either just tire Mahito out, or one-shot him to win. Both were impossible for Nanami, but it's interesting that he mentioned that, because for Goku, this could work. If locked in a battle with Mahito, Goku could just keep up with his greater speed and wear him down with repeated attacks, eventually leaving Mahito with no curse energy to maintain the shape of his soul. Mahito has said as long as he can maintain his soul, he's fine, even if he's turned into bits, but he can be worn down. It's just hard in JJK due to his massive amounts of cursed energy. Goku should have more stamina and can definitely wear him down. And there's also the option of one-shotting him. A full power Kamehameha should eviscerate him completely, leaving no soul behind to be maintained or restored, assuming Nanami's theory is correct. Essentially, it's like what happened with Cell or Buu, although Mahito is much weaker than those two and his regeneration stems from a different place. Point being, you just have to completely destroy him. It's tough, but possible, especially for Goku. Next, Maharaga. Maharaga can adapt to Goku's physical attacks, but he also has ki-based ones. Goku can kill Maharaga if he doesn't give enough time to adapt. However, he'd need to realize that in the first place. And if he doesn't do that, Maharaga adapting to ki would make him pretty much unkillable. Physical attacks are buffed by ki as well, so theoretically, Maharaga adapting to ki means he'll just brush off any physical attacks outside of Goku's intrinsic strength, and then eventually adapt to that as well. And this assumes he also hasn't already adapted to physical attacks by this point. It really comes down to Goku's choices here. He could win, but he'll need to one-shot right off the bat. If he waits too long, Maharaga can't be killed by him. Next on to Yuki. By this point, Yuki's black hole should be able to kill Goku, and Yuki's virtual mash should be able to deal some actual damage to Goku. Yuki would give him a really good fight, but one thing people always forget about her black hole is the fact that it kills her too. Obviously it's a last resort, so once again, it comes down to how Goku does this fight. If he doesn't leave the opportunity for this to happen, then it doesn't happen, and he wins. But let's say Yuki's having a bad day and right off the bat decides to kill herself, turning herself into a black hole and killing Goku in the process, as well as everybody else. Unfortunately, Goku doesn't have an anti-gravity technique to pull out of his ass. Speaking of that, Kenjaku. Kenjaku does have some pretty strong curses on his side. For example, Ganesha, which removes all obstacles and can even manipulate concepts. Still, its abilities are pretty vague though. Plus, with enough power, Goku can just kill it. The issue is, a lot of the spirits that Kenjaku has, and Geto for that matter, they have really strong abilities but can also be exercised with enough power. Like, there's Mahito, but we already covered how Goku can overcome Mahito. There's the smallpox deity, but Goku can overcome that. And if we're using every curse here that Geto or Kenjaku had, there's even that one vengeful spirit that Geto used against Toji, forcing you to answer a question and then insta-killing you if you don't get the answer, plus countless other curses that either of them have used. I think with the smart deployment of these curses, Kenjaku could win, but once more it comes down to his actions, although he is a really smart fighter. This would definitely be a high difficulty fight for Goku, but definitely not impossible. But even then, there are multiple ways Kenjaku can win. Next we'll cover Yorzu. Her true sphere would obviously insta-kill Goku. This is one attack that isn't just some weird hacks, it's just actually strong enough to kill Goku here. The power of this attack is really dumb, it's universal level. Goku definitely has ways of winning in this battle, but if Yorzu pops a domain right away and then creates the true sphere, yeah, Goku's screwed. And you see why I chose this version of Goku. He's strong enough to hold his own, but not so strong that he can just overpower everything. And at the same time, it's not just a battle of hacks versus raw strength. There's actually some interesting caveats here. Next we'll cover Kashimo, someone who actually does outspeed Goku, but obviously, using his full power with Mythical Beast Amber, it will kill him. His cursed energy has the properties of electricity, and it can be used in multiple ways like paralysis, or homing attacks like he did with Hikari. So Goku can resist electricity, we saw this against the pirate robot. Not counting Roshi's Thundershock Surprise because that's a key attack. But based on his fight with Hikari, you could also just ignore his powers with enough strength. Granted, Kashimo says from Hikari's raw cursed energy. But since we're treating ki like that here anyways, then Goku should be able to ignore the weird properties of it. At least with the base attacks, and he is fast enough to dodge that too. But Mythical Beast Amber might be a different story. Mythical Beast Amber will kill him in the end. So by default he can't win, but maybe it could be a draw. Speed-wise he actually matches or exceeds Goku. His EM waves move at the speed of light. We never got to see Kashimo's full bag though, and theoretically, him controlling any electrical phenomena makes him way stronger than most people realize. But none of it's confirmed, it's all theoretical, and we don't get to see what he's truly capable of. So here we're only working off of what the manga actually did show. If he can truly control any electrical phenomena, which would allow him to create some crazy shit like gamma rays, yeah, he could win here, but since we never saw it in the manga, we can't say for sure. It's a shame we never got to see his full bag. Next, Takaba. Realistically, he'd probably get along with Goku. Goku's own comedic stunts would lead to the same type of battle Takaba had with Kenjaku. But in all seriousness, since he can't really control his ability and it's based on what he finds funny, he definitely has the potential to win here, but I don't see him actually winning this battle. Next on to Gojo. Goku can't touch Gojo, but Gojo doesn't have an attack to kill Goku either. Even Purple shouldn't have the power to do so. His domain could stop Goku though, and because of that, he wins this battle. Goku has no way to kill him otherwise, and the domain should be a surefire win. Since we're having Ki treated like cursed energy here, Gojo's infinity would filter it out. And even without this stipulation, it would probably filter it out regardless, especially with his level of perception. Just like Mahito, he could stalemate this by outspeeding the domain's expansion, or breaking out of it when caught, assuming the information overload doesn't stop him immediately, which it very well might. Unless his key attacks somehow aren't registered by infinity, nothing works. This one might be a hard stop for Goku. At best he could stalemate it. Next we'll look at Sukuna. We'll start with a misconception that people brought up in my video about Yujiro versus JJK. Cleave doesn't bypass durability. The cursed energy applied to it can be adjusted based on durability, but that doesn't mean Cleave could affect everything. Very important distinction. Some people assume it's an infinitely powerful attack, and it can cut through anything, but that's not the case. However, Heian Sukuna with World Dismantle could kill Goku. That's an attack that's actually faster than light, so it's something that Goku can't dodge, or even perceive for that matter. Plus, this attack actually does negate durability, unlike a regular Cleave. Issue is, Sukuna needs Mahoraga to fight and create the blueprint for this. It's not something he had previously. So if this was regular Heian Sukuna, he's probably screwed. But we are, and should be using Sukuna from the story here, who has access to Mahoraga and this ability. This version of Sukuna can and probably would kill Goku. If Goku doesn't end the battle quick enough, which he definitely can, then Sukuna will know to go for the kill shot. And once he's had his fun with Goku, or realizes he's screwed, he could just resort to this. Because he probably would find some fun in this battle at least. And same goes for Goku. I don't think the two would go to kill each other right away. That applies to a lot of the previous battles as well. Goku probably wouldn't go for the kill right away unless he sees a big threat. Similar to what I mentioned about Ryomen, Goku also hasn't shown extreme heat resistance, and I didn't forget the Thundershock surprise. That's just never stated or shown to be actual lightning, so we can't use the heat of lightning to assume that that attack's also hot. Arguably the best feat he has at this point is in Chapter 81, where he takes a burst from a jet engine point blank from General Blue, and he's relatively okay from it. He's a little burnt up but fine otherwise. The issue is scaling this. First off, Goku took a brief burst from it, so it wasn't prolonged, and it's a fictional vehicle, so we don't know how hot the engine runs. In real life, afterburners on fighter jets typically reach around 3000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty hot. But again, we can't be certain it's the same temperature here, plus it's still a brief burst. Anyways, as of recording, we only just learned the name of Sukuna's attack. We don't know how hot it is, just that it's hot enough to kill Jogo, who already has extreme heat resistance. If we look at Sukuna versus Jogo, we can see the glass melted around them in the anime. This was just from the ambient temperature surrounding them, not a direct hit from any of their attacks. Glass doesn't melt until 1400 degrees Celsius, over 2500 degrees Fahrenheit. And at the speed this melts, it's likely even hotter. Jogo and Sukuna were both perfectly fine in this environment, with Jogo actually being responsible for it being that hot. And yet, Sukuna's flame arrow was more than enough to literally burn him to a crisp. This isn't simply a power thing either. Strength is a factor, but elemental abilities also come into play when fighting against other elemental curse techniques. So it is fair to assume that the actual heat of this attack comes into play, not just the raw power of it. This also applies to Jogo too, so Jogo actually has a way of defeating Goku as well. Assuming Goku can't resist heat at this level, then yeah, Jogo has a shot. I didn't forget about him here. Of course, Goku's attack power and speed is way higher, but because of what I said about Sukuna, the same also applies here with Jogo. If Goku is hit by Jogo's flames, which can be done telekinetically by the way, Goku might actually be at risk. In a domain, he's probably screwed. As strong as Goku is, at this point in the story he hasn't shown any resistance to something like this. Jogo can casually cremate multiple people at once, without direct contact, which requires temperatures around 1600 degrees Fahrenheit, probably hotter. At this point in the story, Goku hasn't been able to resist something like that. And I guess we could end off with Yuji. We know he has his own version of Shrine, but the level at which he has it right now shouldn't be enough to actually hurt Goku. Him attacking Goku's soul would be good because he could damage Goku, but Goku still does outspeed him and overpowers him greatly. And I guess that's where we can end off. A good chunk of these characters have a way to kill Goku, but Goku also has ways to kill them. Most of these fights depend on the moves that people make and how fast Goku decides to finish it. The biggest issues are Mahoraga, Gojo, and probably Sukuna. At least with Gojo, he's probably going to win here. Goku cannot hit him at all. Like I said, the best he could do is stalemate by just keeping his distance, but at some point, Gojo would be able to hit a domain and end the fight. For Mahoraga and Sukuna, it really depends on how they act, and how Goku acts. There's other people that hypothetically are a big challenge, like Takaba, Kenjaku, and maybe a Ryomen, and same for Kashimo. I guess another thing to consider here is the fact that Goku could probably just take some of these people to the moon like he did to Monster Carrot, but that would require getting close and actually having the time to do this. If we're just looking at his raw stats, for some of these people it's going to be a bit tougher. But more impressive is the fact that he could just defeat the entire verse outside of Gojo. Obviously Gojo's hacks are a perfect counter to someone like Goku without any cursed energy counters. Sure, his attacks might not do much damage, but his domain could stop Goku in his tracks. In terms of defenses, he's perfectly fine. But still, this matchup is way more interesting than me doing something absurd like current Goku versus JJK. This one actually does have a lot of variables and gives Goku a challenge. So despite the power of the hacks in this verse, Goku has ways to win a lot of these fights. But he also has a lot of ways to lose too, with not many ways to hard stop Goku. But let me know what you think below. Is there anything I missed that might be able to stop Goku? Is there any way Goku could win more easily? And like usual, I know it's a power scaling video, so be civil in the comments. Anyways, thank you all for watching, be sure to subscribe if you want to see more like this, and I'll see you all in my next video.